Hello, my dearest students. Today we are going to discuss the story Bholi, which is written by K.A.Abbas. So, this story teaches us an important lesson that we should not criticize or ridicule anyone based on their looks. And a child needs love, support, and encouragement for a healthy development. So, let's go into the line by line explanation of the story. Her name was Sulekha, but since her childhood, everyone had been calling her Bholi, the simpleton. So, the meaning of the word Bholi means someone who is a fool or who is a very dull person who is not smart. So, Sulekha, though that was her real name, she was called Bholi by everyone. She was the fourth daughter of Numberdar Ramlal. When she was 10 months old, she had fallen off the cot on her head, and perhaps it had damaged some part of her brain. That was why she remained a backward child and came to be known as Bholi the simpleton. So, why was she called Bholi? That could be a question. Because when she was 10 months old, she had fallen off the cot and people believed that that had damaged some part of her brain. So they're saying perhaps, so they're not saying for sure. That is, they're just speculating that it would have damaged some part of her brain. And because of that, she remained a backward child who took longer to study and understand things. At birth, the child was very fair and pretty. But when she was 2 years old, she had an attack of smallpox. Only the eyes were saved, but the entire body was permanently disfigured by deep black pock marks. So, unfortunately, she had an attack of smallpox when she was 2 years old, and except for her eyes, the entire body was permanently disfigured by having deep black pock marks. Little Sulekha could not speak till she was 5. Unfortunately, she was mute until she was 5. And when at last she learned to speak, she had the problem of stammering. The other children often made fun of her and mimicked her. As a result, she talked very little. So, if you see here, Sulekha had a very difficult childhood. She had gone through a lot of hardships in her life. Another word for hardship is adversity. And she was also mocked and ridiculed by the other children. And that is why she spoke very little. So, if I ask you, how was the early life of Sulekha? The answer will come from here. Ramlal had 7 children, 3 sons and 4 daughters, and the youngest of them was Bholi. It was a prosperous farmer's household, so they did not have any money issues. They were quite prosperous, and there was plenty to eat and drink. All the children except Bholi were healthy and strong. The sons had been sent to the city to study in schools and later in colleges. Of the daughters, Radha, the eldest, had already been married. The second daughter, Mangala's marriage, had also been settled. And when that was done, Ramlal would think of the third, Champa. So if you see here, there is disparity that you see in between the gender. So here, we are talking about education being given to sons where they were sent to the city to learn. But when it came about daughters, they were married off. They were good looking, healthy girls, and it was not difficult to find bridegrooms for them. So they are saying because they were good looking, it wasn't difficult because everyone is looking for a beautiful wife. So this shows how shallow the society is. But Ramlal was worried about Bholi. So this could be a question. Why was Ramlal worried about Bholi? The answer is because she had neither good looks nor intelligence. So this was the reason why Ramlal was worried. Bholi was 7 years old when Mangala was married. The same year, a primary school for girls was opened in their village. The Tehsildar Sahib came to perform its opening ceremony. He said to Ramlal, as a revenue official, you are the representative of the government in the village. And so you must set an example to the villagers. You must send your daughter to school. So here the question could come, why was Bholi sent to school? So the answer is when Bholi was 7 years old, a primary school was opened in the village, and the Tehsildar who had come during the opening ceremony persuaded Ramlal that he ought to send his daughter to school to set an example to the villagers. Persuaded is convinced. So that is the answer. That night, when Ramlal consulted his wife, she cried, are you crazy? If girls go to school, who will marry them? So they have a thought process that highly educated girls won't find a groom to marry. Therefore, they should not be educated. But Ramlal had not the courage to disobey the Tehsildar. At last his wife said, I will tell you what to do. Send Boli to school. As it is, there is little chance of her getting married. With her ugly face and lack of sense. Let the teachers at school worry about her. So the wife says, anywhere there is meager chance that she is going to get married as she is ugly and she does not have intelligence. So at least let it be the headache of the teacher for a while. The next day, Ramlal caught Bholi by the hand and said, come with me. I will take you to school. Bholi was frightened. So, here if you see, Bholi is frightened. She is petrified. Petrified is scared. Because if you see, she's 7 years old and she hasn't been to school until now. So, can you see the worried look on her face as she's going to school? She does not know what a school was like. She remembered how a few days ago their old cow Lakshmi had been turned out of the house and sold. So she is scared that she would have the same fate like Lakshmi the cow because she is also been taken out of the house. No, 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 she shouted in terror and pulled her hand away from her father's grip. So she was apprehensive. Apprehensive is anticipating with fear about what is going to happen to her. What's the matter with you, you fool? Shouted Ramlal. I am only taking you to school. Then he told his wife, let her wear some decent clothes today, or else what will the teachers and the other schoolgirls think of us when they see her? So if you see here, they don't have concern towards the daughter, but they have concern about their reputation of what others will think about them. New clothes had never been made for Bholi. The old dresses of her sisters were passed on to her. So she was given only hand-me-downs. Hand-me-downs means the clothes that elders had worn and then passed on to her. No one cared to mend or wash her clothes. So the clothes were also very shabby. But today she was lucky to receive a clean dress which had shrunk after many washings and no longer fitted Champa. So why was she lucky? Because she always had got hand-me-downs. No one cared to mend or wash her clothes, but today she had received a clean dress that was washed. She was even bathed and oil was rubbed into her dry and matted hair. So, matted hair is the hair that happens when you don't comb or wash your hair, it becomes like a matted hair where you can't even comb through. Only then did she begin to believe that she was being taken to a place better than her home. So here, Bholi never got any care from the family, and she was a neglected child. When they reached the school, the children were already in their classrooms. Ramlal handed over his daughter to the headmistress. Left alone, the poor girl looked about her with fear-laden eyes. There were several rooms, and in each room, girls like her squatted on mats. So they were sitting on the mats, reading from books or writing on slates. The headmistress asked Bholi to sit down in a corner in one of the classrooms. She is a little nervous because this is a new environment for her, as until now she was inside her house, inside the four walls of her house. Bholi did not know what exactly a school was like and what happened there, but she was glad to find so many girls almost of her own age present there. She hoped that one of these girls might become her friend, so she had a ray of hope here. She was lonely until now, but now she had a hope that at least someone would be her friend. The lady teacher who was in the class was saying something to the girls, but Bholi couldn't understand anything. She looked at the pictures on the wall. The colors fascinated her. The horse was brown, just like the horse on which the Tehsildar had come to visit their village. The goat was black, like the goat of their neighbor. The parrot was green, like the parrot she had seen in the mango orchard. And the cow was just like their Lakshmi. And suddenly, Bholi noticed that the teacher was standing by her side, smiling at her. So she could relate to whatever was taught in school because she has seen all of that in her environment. What's your name, little one? Says the teacher. Bo. She could stammer no further than that. Then she began to cry, and tears flowed from her eyes in a helpless flood. She kept her head down as she sat in her corner, not daring to look up at the girls who she knew were still laughing at her. She had become a laughing stock in front of everyone because she was stammering. When the school bell rang, all the girls scurried out of the classroom, so everyone left. But Bholi dared not leave her corner. Her head still lowered, she kept on sobbing. So she was feeling really bad and she was crying because of the humiliation she had to face in school. Bholi, the teacher's voice, was so soft and so soothing. In all her life, she had never been called like that. It touched her heart. So, how was the teacher's treatment different from what others had done to her? That could be a question. So you can say the teacher's voice was soft and soothing, and in all her life, no one had called her like that, and it touched her heart. Get up, said the teacher. It was not a command, but just a friendly suggestion. The teacher was friendly. Now tell me your name. Sweat broke out over her whole body. Would her stammering tongue again disgrace her? For the sake of this kind woman, however, she decided to make an effort because she knew that this teacher is not going to ridicule her or shout at her. She was very kind. She had such a soothing voice, she would not laugh at her. So she took up the courage to speak again. Bo, she began to stammer. Well done, the teacher encouraged her. Come on now, the full name. Bholi. At last she was able to say it and feel relieved as if it was a great achievement. So the teacher was also quite encouraging. Well done, the teacher patted her affectionately. So the teacher was affectionate as well. Put the fear out of your heart and you will be able to speak like everyone else. Bholi looked up as if to ask, Really? So the teacher gave her words of encouragement. All her life, she was only laughed at or ridiculed or shouted at. But first time there was someone who was boosting her morale and encouraging her to speak up. Yes, yes, it will be very easy. You just come to school every day. Will you come? Bholi nodded. No, say it aloud. She's encouraging us saying, speak up. Yeah, yeah, yes. And Boli herself was astonished that she had been able to say it. So you can see a difference already in Boli. Didn't I tell you that you could do it? Now take this book. The book was full of nice pictures and the pictures were in color. Dog, cat, goat, horse, parrot, tiger, and a cow just like Lakshmi. And with every picture was a word in big black letters. In 1 month, you will be able to read this book. Then I will give you a bigger book, then a still bigger one. In time, you will be more learned than anyone else in the village. The teacher saying that as you keep learning, I will help you and then you will become the most learned person in this village. Then no one will ever be able to laugh at you. People will listen to you with respect and you will be able to speak without the slightest stammer. Understand? Now go home and come back early tomorrow. So the duty that actually her parents should have done to her was done by the teacher. Boli felt as if suddenly all the bells in the village temple were ringing and the trees in front of her schoolhouse had blossomed into big red flowers. Her heart was throbbing with a new hope and a new life. So she had a new hope now that things were going to get better. The village became a small town. The little primary school became a high school. There were now a cinema under a tin shed and a cotton ginning mill. The mail train began to stop at their railway station. So here it is talking about how the small village had now developed into a small town and all the new facilities that were brought in. One night after dinner, Ramlal said to his wife, then, shall I accept Bishambar's proposal? Yes, certainly, his wife said. Bholi will be lucky to get such a well-to-do bridegroom. So they had found a bridegroom for Bholi. So they wanted to get her married. A big shop, a house of his own, and I hear several thousand in the bank. Moreover, he is not asking for any dowry. So here there could be a question. Why did the wife think that Bholi would be lucky to marry Bishambar? That is a question. That's right. But he's not so young, almost the same age as I am. So the father is saying, he's old. He's the same age as I am. And he also limps. So he has difficulty walking. Moreover, the children from his first wife are quite grown up. So I don't think Bholi is as lucky as what the mother says. So here if you see, there has been progress in the village, but there has been no progress in the mind or even in the thinking of the parents. They are still the same. So what does it matter? The wife replied. 45 or 55, it is no great age for a man. We are lucky that he is from another village and does not know about her pock marks and her lack of sense. So, Bishambar is oblivious to the fact that she has pock marks on her face and she is a little slow to understand. He is kept in the dark. If we don't accept this proposal, she may remain unmarried all her life. So they think the responsibility of them is just get her married and they want to do it at any cost. So they are selfish and they want to just get rid of their daughter. Yes, but I wonder what Bholi will say. What will that witless one say? She is like a dumb cow. Maybe you are right, muttered Ramlal. So this is very insensitive of them to talk like that about another human being, and especially that human being being their daughter. In the other corner of the courtyard, Boli lay awake on her cot, listening to her parents' whispered conversation. She could listen to all of this. Just think of the impact it would create on her when somebody's talking about her like she is an animal. Bishambar Nath was a well to do grocer. He came with a big party of friends and relations with him for the wedding. A brass band playing a popular tune from an Indian film headed the procession. So, this is how a wedding procession is in India, right? With the bridegroom riding a decorated horse. Ramlal was overjoyed to see such pomp and splendor. So, the father, Ramlal, was really happy to see so much, such a grand wedding. He had never dreamt that his fourth daughter would have such a grand wedding. Bholi's elder sisters, who had come for the occasion, were envious of her luck. Oh, so they were all jealous that there was so much pomp and joy in that wedding. When the auspicious moment came, the priest said, "Bring the bride." So it was time to exchange the garlands. Bholi, clad in a red silken bridal dress, was led to the bride's place near the sacred fire. "Garland the bride," one of his friends prompted Bishambarnath. So, don't waste time, garland the bride. The bridegroom lifted the garland of yellow marigold. A woman slipped back the silken veil from the bride's face. So, there was this woman who removed the veil from the head of the bride. Bishambar took a quick glance. So, he took a quick look. The garland remained poised in his hand, so he was shocked. The bride slowly pulled down the veil over her face. Then she slowly pulled the veil back over her face. "Have you seen her?" said Bishambar to the friend next to him. "She has pock marks on her face." So he didn't know that she had pock marks on her face. So he was shocked. "So what? You're not young either. Yeah, you are also an old man, so it doesn't matter." Maybe that doesn't matter. "But if I am to marry her, her father must give me 5,000 rupees." So here he asks for dowry. He himself is an old man, but because she had pock marks on her face, he's asking for a dowry of 5,000 rupees. Ramlal went and placed his turban, which is his honor, at Bishambar's feet. "Do not humiliate me so. Take 2,000 rupees." So he's negotiating and saying, "See, a turban is my honor and I'm placing it at your feet. Please do not humiliate me in front of everyone." "No, 5,000 or we go back. Keep your daughter." So here they are haggling like she's some object. They are bargaining and talking. "Be a little considerate, please. If you go back, I can never show my face to the village." So he's saying, "Please don't do that. Please don't go back. I will be disrespected in the society." Then out with 5,000. So he's not ready to negotiate. Tears streaming down his face, Ramlal went in, opened the safe, and counted out the notes. He placed the bundle at the bridegroom's feet. So, as he had asked for 5,000, finally he gives the money to the bridegroom. On Bishambar's greedy face appeared a triumphant smile. So he became happy. He had gambled and won. Now he was ready to get married. "Give me the garland," he announced. Once again, the veil was slipped back from the bride's face. But this time her eyes were not downcast. So now her eyes were not down, but she was looking eye to eye, which shows confidence. She was looking up, looking straight at her prospective husband, and in her eyes there were neither anger nor hate, only cold contempt. So she did not show any anger or hate, but she showed contempt. Contempt is that this person does not deserve any respect. That is contempt. Bishamber raised the garland to place it round the bride's neck. But before he could do so, Boli's hand struck out like a streak of lightning, and the garland was flung into the fire. So, what did she do? She took the garland from his hand and flung it into the fire. She got up and threw away the veil. So, here, if you can see, Bholi is taking a stand for herself. She's showing confidence. So this is a stark difference to how it was in the beginning, where she was very shy and she never spoke. Pitaji, said Bholi in a clear, loud voice. She was not stammering. And her father, mother, sisters, brothers, relations, and neighbors were startled, shocked to hear her speak without even the slightest stammer. Pitaji, take back your money. I am not going to marry this man. She says, take back your money because no way I am going to marry this person. Ramlal was thunderstruck. He was shocked. The guests began to whisper, so shameless, so ugly and so shameless. So they're body shaming her as well. Bholi, are you crazy? Shouted Ramlal. You want to disgrace your family? Have some regard for our izzat. So he's saying, have some regard for our reputation. For the sake of your izzat, said Bholi, I was willing to marry this lame old man. But I will not have such a mean, greedy, and contemptible coward as my husband. I won't, I won't, I won't. So she's saying, I first agreed to marry this old man only for the sake of your reputation. But now I will not have such a mean, greedy man who's ready to just marry for money. I will not marry him. What a shameless girl. We all thought she was a harmless, dumb cow. So everybody's saying, how can she be shameless? They aren't pointing fingers at the man who agreed to marry someone for a sum of 5,000 rupees, but because she disagreed to marry him, she was called a dumb cow. Bholi turned violently on the old woman. Yes, auntie, you are right. You all thought I was a dumb, driven cow. That's why you wanted to hand me over to this heartless creature. But now the dumb cow, the stammering fool is speaking. Do you want to hear more? So she's saying this harmless, dumb cow is, and the stammering fool is not the same person. Vishambarnath, the grocer, started to go back with his party. The confused bandsmen thought this was the end of the ceremony and struck up a closing song. So they thought it was over, the marriage was over, and they had to play the song again. Ramlal stood rooted to the ground, his head bowed low with the weight of grief and shame. So there was grief as well as shame, and that is why he had bowed his head low. The flames of the sacred fire slowly died down. Everyone was gone. Ramlal turned to Boli and said, but what about you? No one will ever marry you now. What shall we do with you? So they think, now what shall we do with you? You are a burden for us. And now, after this disrespect, no one will even agree to marry you. And Sulekha said in a voice, if you see until now, she was called Bholi, 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 the fool. But now she was called Sulekha again because she was no longer Bholi. Don't you worry, Pitaji. In your old age, I will serve you and mother, and I will teach in the same school where I learned so much. Isn't that right, ma'am? So she's saying, don't worry, you don't have to take care of me. I am going to serve you and take care of both of you. And I am going to be self sufficient where I will teach in the same school. That has totally transformed me, and I have learned so much. And her teacher was right there. The teacher had all along stood in a corner watching the drama. Yes, Boli, of course, she replied. And in her smiling eyes was the light of a deep satisfaction that an artist feels when contemplating the completion of her masterpiece. So, it was the responsibility of her parents to support her and boost her morale. But instead, the teacher took up the responsibility and transformed her into a very confident child. If you remember in the beginning, Bholi was a demure, reserved, shy, and underconfident girl. And she was a person who always chose to be quiet. But now she had learned to voice her opinion. She took a stand for herself and she had become bold and confident. So, this shows that education can totally transform a person, and also how love and support can help her speak confidently. The story also reflects on how a society is, where people criticize people on looks rather than on achievements. So it is a lesson for each one of us. And in the end, if you see, the teacher is really happy that she helped transform a child's life. I'm so glad that you watched this video, and I hope it has helped you to learn a lot more. If you haven't subscribed, do it immediately because I want you to be able to watch all the videos that are uploaded so that it will help you in your examinations. Take care of yourself. I'm praying for you. God bless.